Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in our communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth. In the U.S., it is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. In Switzerland, we're taking a closer look at these trees. They've been marked for removal due to a fungus that's spreading in the forest. But given everything we know about frequency and healing, could something else be done to resolve these problems in the future? And in Uganda, the people are stepping up to resolve water issues within their community. We'll show you how they're using gravity to get water from the mountains to the villages. In the new Earth, we're exploring our ability to communicate with plants and animals, including the potential hurdles we may need to overcome. And Braille, a written language helping the visually impaired to read, is getting more high-tech. See how it's being used in everyday situations.
This is Calen Gipp, Messenger for United Network News. Here's a look at today's Field Messenger reports from all around the world. Today we visit Zurich Lake area in Switzerland, where trees are being cut down because they are supposedly affected by a fungus and a parasitic plant. UNN Field Messenger Simone wonders if these trees could be treated and saved rather than removed.
Hi everybody, this is Simone and I'm reporting here from Switzerland for United Network News Field Messenger Report. And I have a report to make about something that I came across regarding trees and a situation that we may have to face through the frequency healing and methods that we now can use. And a lot more, and understand a lot more since Kim's last report, which I am truly grateful for. I found out from some local people that these trees were all marked to be felled, to be cut down. What I was told is that these trees seem to have some kind of a fungus, or some kind of a fungus was detected, which is spreading in the Swiss forests. And here they are coming to cut down the trees that they marked the other day and hauling them away. They're mostly firs, actually. They're basically tall fir trees, from what I could see. So it appears that these trees, which are called Esche in German, and I'll look up which name they have in English, but they seem to be strangled by this other growth, which is a parasite. Now, I'm by no means a tree expert, but I'm just questioning whether these parasitic plants that are kind of growing up the trees and strangling them in the end, why can't they just be trimmed off or cut off before it gets to the point where the whole tree has to be cut down? That's all I'm questioning, and I hope that we find a remedy in the future on our new Earth.
Next, we learn how the people in Uganda are solving their water supply issues. UNN Field Messenger Ogarama shows us how they use gravity to get the water from the mountains down to the community.
I'm Ogarama George William from Uganda. Here in this activity in Uganda, here we are having challenge of water scarcity, and what we are trying to do as me as a water engineer, we are trying to supply water to the community. Basically, in an area of Bududa, We have water which flows direct from the mountain, that's Mountain Elgon. And that water is supplied direct to the sump on gravity flow. And the cheapest part of it, we don't use power. Water flows directly from the mountain, the collecting point, and that collecting point, it is where we connect water direct to the sump. When it goes to the sump, it is where we have the water treatment, and that water treatment, it is where we supply direct to the community. So we greatly give people urge that we are ready to supply and help the community, as they have been using that water comes down a bit, and the community are very happy that we can save them in all means. Thank you. This is Ogarama George from Uganda. Here I am, a water engineer.
We want you to become a UNN field messenger. These are everyday people just like you who want to make a difference in their community. Don't need any special training or equipment. Just use the camera on your mobile phone and show us what's happening in your area. You send us your videos and our production team will create the report for you. For ideas and inspiration, we encourage you to join our new Field Messenger group on Telegram. Our new website is now up and running at unitednetwork.earth. You can submit your Field Messenger reports directly through the Field Messenger tab at the top of the page. You can also email your reports to our new email address at fieldmessenger@unitednetwork.earth.
Hello, I'm Susan from Sweden.
Mwanda Michael from Eastern Uganda, Africa.
Hi, I'm Tim from Vancouver, Canada.
I'm Titeshwar Tongao from Manipur State, India.
I'm Gumba Obasi from Southeast Nigeria.
Arnaito Chakrini from Western Uganda, Mbarara.
At United Network News, you are the news.
My name's Christina, Field Messenger, report first one in the hurricane down here in Southern California from Mexico.
Real people reporting real stories from all around the world. At UNN, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Jason from United Network News. We're going to be doing some aircrete building with new technologies that allow us to live in comfort and also off the grid.
Take the next step in changing the way the world gets the news. Become a UNN field messenger today.
I am Michelle from South Africa, and we are the United Network News.
I am United Network News.
I am United Network News.
If it is going to be, then it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
Si va a ser así, depende de mí. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN.
The way we communicate with one another is changing. In the new Earth, telepathy is just one way we'll be reaching out to one another, and that includes connecting one-on-one with plants and animals. Kara Daniels connects with the consciousness of Earth, not only to speak with plants and animals, but also to help heal them. Today, Kara gives us a sneak peek at some of the common hurdles we'll need to overcome to make these connections. Kara is back with us, and we're talking about connecting with plants and animals. So, Kara, what kind of hurdles do we as humans have to overcome in order to be able to do this? Because, you know, a lot of us that are watching this are adults. We were not taught to do this as kids. I feel like, everything would be so much easier if we were just doing this as kids. We wouldn't have had all the roadblocks, right? But what do we do now that we're adults and, you know, we're kind of struggling with, this sounds really cool. I really want to be able to do this. But, you know, yeah, what do we need to know?
Yeah, I was going to say skepticism is the biggest hurdle to get over.
Yes.
Because we're just not taught that it's something that is even possible. So if you can just go with it and just say, I don't even know if this is real, but I'm going to give it a go anyways because I'm curious. I think that's kind of the best approach you can take. Just be playful and just to build your confidence, learn the basic foundations, go with it in, with a playful manner, and then practice. And I think one of the hardest things for somebody like me is, and a lot of people I work with, is just being a perfectionist. I like to be right, so making mistakes along the way is like a shot to my ego. That was a hard lesson I had to learn. But part of learning how to communicate in this capacity is sometimes by getting things wrong, because a lot of the time we have to kind of decipher what is our inner voice, what is coming from external sources. Are you projecting? Are you making it up? It's like all these things that kind of just recirculate through your mind. And so it's like you have to be able to fail and be okay with it and then keep going, because the more you fail, and I quote fail because it's a learning process, but the more you do it, the more you practice, and the more that you just kind of tap back into that inner child, like you said, the better you're going to be and the stronger the information is going to come through. So really the biggest hurdle is going to be your own self-block, which is the hardest part. You get in your own way, but yeah.
So when you started doing this, by the way, how old were you when you started talking to plants and animals?
Yeah, I think I was really tuned in as a child, but when I was 6, I was the weird kid in school, so I shut that down really quickly. And it didn't come back until my late 20s, when literally a cat just walked into my life and literally started talking to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so I kind of just had to relearn it from scratch. Just kind of, as you're saying, go through all of the blocks and barriers and go through the skepticism and just go for it.
How do you know the difference between you making something up and something being real, right? Because you question it, but then how do you really know what's what?
Yeah, especially when you're first beginning. Oftentimes the information coming through is just a mere whisper, and oftentimes it's in your own voice. So I like to, well, now it's a little different. All the information is a lot stronger for me because I've been practicing, but I always say, go through the reality check. That's what I call it. It's like, did you know the information beforehand? Could you have made it up? Would you have made it up? And if it's something that you had no idea, where would it else have come from? So I always like to do a self-check, which is so important to, again, go back into your body. Go into your body, know what it feels like. If your knee all of a sudden starts to hurt, like, did you make that up? Probably not. You're not just going to make your knee hurt when you're asking your dog if they're feeling okay, And so having those kind of checks and balances to determine if it's yours and if it's not is really important. But that's why practicing with animals or beings that you're unfamiliar with is really important to gaining confidence and deciphering what's yours and what's not.
One of the things that I find helpful too is that usually the information comes very quickly. And I know I did not have time to make that up. Like, it's almost like a download, like a sense of knowing. Like, when I talk to spiders, it's like, all right, I had no idea and I could not have made that up. I didn't even have time to think of what their response was. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like an instantaneous thing. For me, that really helps because I'm like, yeah, that was not me, not at all.
Yeah, that actually brings me to the ego part of it. It's like our mind has, and when I say ego, it's just the part of our mind that keeps us safe and likes to question everything. And you're right, the messages are always right there, right? First thing. And then your ego is the second thing that's like, nah, that didn't happen. That's not what they said. So it's like the first thing is usually a message from them. And then your own mind is second.
Yeah, this is why we say go with your gut. Right? Because it's usually spot on.
Exactly.
Braille, a written language with characters of raised dots felt with fingertips, is a valuable tool for the visually impaired, providing increased independence, access to education, and employment opportunities. While only a small percentage of the visually impaired are Braille literate, modern technology is inspiring a new era of Braille literacy. Accessibility to Braille has increased in numerous everyday situations, from lift buttons to credit cards to street signs. Tactile maps are increasingly found in streets and public spaces like museums and hospitals. The integration of specialized software has revolutionized converting screen text into this touchable language. One charitable organization is using a UV printer to create tactile reproductions of artworks. This has enabled visually impaired individuals to engage in gallery spaces where before they had no real sense of the images displayed. Children's books are being adapted to incorporate both print and Braille, making it a shared reading experience for visually impaired and sighted individuals alike. In Australia, a vast library collection includes talking books and more than 8,000 Braille titles. Braille is now present on cruise ship handrails and on marathon finishers' medals. Visually impaired children can become familiar with the raised dot characters by using special Lego bricks developed to allow whole families to learn the language while playing together. This makes the learning process faster and more interesting. Technology and creativity are assisting the integration of visually impaired into workplaces and society in general. With a knowledge of Braille, they add extra dimensions to their world. Sweden sets a global standard in sustainable waste management practices, boasting a remarkable recycling rate of nearly 99%. The country enforces a law requiring all waste to be sorted before it reaches recycling stations. These stations are conveniently located within 300 meters of residential or business zones for easy access. An established deposit system for cans and bottles has been in place since the mid-80s and 90s, leading to the recycling of almost 2 billion bottles annually that would otherwise pollute landfills and waterways. Despite their impressive recycling statistics, not all waste in Sweden is recycled in the traditional manner. Additionally, trash is incinerated to generate electricity and provide heating for more than 1 million homes, replacing traditional fossil fuels. To keep their waste to heat plants operative, Sweden imports trash from other nations to satisfy their system's capacity. Sweden is also a pioneer in converting food waste into eco-friendly biogas. Recently, the country has set food waste collection rules, with biogas now used for public transport and heating residential buildings. Sweden's future focus is on adopting a circular economy approach, which aims to reuse products and recycle only when necessary. This strategy is aided by tax reforms, encouraging cheaper repairs and secondhand purchases. Malls selling only recycled, upcycled, and sustainable goods are also emerging. It does take time, dedication, and organization, but the rewards are evident. Sweden's highly efficient program provides a compelling model for the rest of the world. In Australia, many projects designed to repair and restore parts of the Great Barrier Reef are underway. One restoration effort is a community initiative with about 50 volunteers, including divers from the tourism industry, lending their support. The warming and cooling cycles of the planet can upset the delicate balance of the coral that the coral needs to survive. Elevated water temperatures, storm damage, and pollution contribute to the coral becoming stressed, which causes it to expel the algae in its tissues, leaving it bleached and white. These events serve as a testing ground for the resilience of corals. There has been success in the repair of the Great Barrier Reef as corals planted 4 years ago have spawned for the first time. The spawning event was particularly encouraging because the mother corals were survivors of a mass bleaching event, and it is hoped that their offspring will be more resilient to future storms, pollution, and marine heat waves. The coral offspring were cultivated on underwater frames by marine biologists and volunteers, and then placed on patches of the barrier reef, a bare reef as well. The restoration projects are working on a small scale compared to the size of the Great Barrier Reef. Now, to improve the coral cover on the reef by just 1%, it's estimated that around 250 million large corals would need to be grown. Currently, there are 33 coral nurseries, each harboring about 100 corals. The reef, similar in size to Italy, consists of more than 3,000 individual reefs. Although these reef restoration initiatives will take years to complete, it is a community effort with many people dedicated to making it happen. Welcome to United Network News. I'm Sunny Galt.
Connect with United Network News online. The news portion of our website at unitednetwork.earth recaps the biggest stories impacting our planet. You can also watch inspiring videos from our field messengers and get great tips for creating your own field messenger reports. Easily share all of this content with your friends in just a few clicks, including our social media memes designed to ignite conversation and critical thinking. It's time to restore our home. Let's make history together at unitednetwork.earth.
Now, a look at regional stories around the world. Heavy snow is causing major disruptions across central China, leaving thousands of people stranded. The farmer protests in Europe are heating up. More countries are joining the demonstrations in hopes that the government will take action. Internet outages have cut off communication for the people of Sudan. Families cannot reach each other, and it's also causing humanitarian issues. And in Victoria, Australia, high childcare costs are consuming the disposable income for parents, making it difficult for women returning to work. Severe winter weather is causing major disruptions across central China during the Lunar New Year holiday travel rush. Thousands have been stranded due to icy conditions on roads, with some travelers being stuck for more than 13 hours to advance just 25 miles. The unusual heavy snowfall has led to snapped tree branches in Wuhan and the temporary closure of airport runways, leading to flight and train cancellations and extensive delays. An official reported approximately 4,000 vehicles trapped due to the ice on Monday in Hubei province. In the Hunan province, one person died and 13 were injured when a roof collapsed at a fair due to the snow. The Chinese government is responding by releasing emergency funds for snow removal efforts to ensure safer travel. Months after devastating earthquakes hit Turkey, more than 700,000 people find themselves housed in more than 400 makeshift container cities. These survivors are receiving assistance with basic necessities like heating and electricity. Yet the primary need, a permanent home, remains unmet. The Turkish government's pledge to deliver 46,000 newly built housing units by the first anniversary of the quake falls significantly short of the 300,000 to 600,000 units required, leaving many in prolonged uncertainty. Officials acknowledge the gravity of the situation and the vast scope of reconstruction efforts needed, emphasizing the intent to expedite permanent housing solutions. Meanwhile, people seek solace in communal support as the society strives to recover from both its physical and emotional wounds. Starting February 14th, tourists visiting Bali, including travelers from Singapore, will be required to pay a tourism tax of almost $10. This tax also applies to domestic tourists and affects children, as there are no exemptions. Visitors need to pay upon each entry, meaning those who travel to nearby islands and then return to Bali will pay twice. Revenue from the tax will go toward improving tourist services, cultural preservation, and environmental protection in response to over-tourism and pollution concerns. Bali aims to welcome 7 million tourists in 2024, contributing to Indonesia's goal of 14 million visitors. Additionally, visa-free entry for Asian nationals remains, but other visitors must pay for a visa on arrival, separate from this new tourism tax. Cosmetic giant Estee Lauder announced plans to reduce its global workforce by 3 to 5%, affecting numerous employees worldwide. The decision is part of its strategy to address lower demand for luxury goods in China, a significant market for high-end products. Despite a post-pandemic spending surge anticipation, consumers are gravitating towards local brands, shifting the market dynamics. This shift has contributed to a decrease in regional sales and an overall dip in profit margins. Estée Lauder shares saw a surge despite the cutback announcement, demonstrating investors' positive reactions to cost-saving measures. The workforce reduction is part of Estée Lauder's broader initiative to improve operating profits by the fiscal years 2025 and 2026. In a small village in Sri Lanka, the community is facing a dramatic and deadly conflict with elephants. Human casualties and elephant deaths are increasing as farming expands into traditional elephant habitats, disturbing the natural food and water sources for elephants and resulting in more encounters between villagers and these endangered animals. Villagers are living in fear, especially at night, and they face threats to their livelihood and safety. Despite being a punishable offense, desperate farmers have resorted to lethal means to protect their livelihoods, installing high-voltage fences, using poison and explosive baits to deter the large animals. Urgent solutions are needed to prevent further loss of life and conserve the endangered elephant population, which has already seen a drastic decline since the 19th century. Farmers in Greece are continuing their demonstrations by spilling local produce onto the streets as a form of protest. The main issues fueling their frustration include rising production costs and perceived insufficient governmental support amidst inflation and environmental policies expenses. They argue the measures fail to address the loss of income due to changes in EU policies, an issue that impacts their livelihood and the decision of many to remain in the country. The current talks with the government have been met with skepticism, viewed as mere formality without real progress. More disruptive actions, such as highway blockades, are being considered for the following days as farmers seek tangible solutions. In Sofia, Bulgaria, local farmers staged a significant protest demanding government action to alleviate pressures faced by the agricultural sector. The unrest amongst farmers stems from rising operational costs, aggravated by the conflict in Ukraine, and increasing imports undercutting local produce prices. These challenges are compounded by what protesters describe as burdensome EU regulations and a lack of effective support from the government. The agricultural community expressed particular frustration over unmet governmental promises to reduce administrative hurdles and the absence of financial safeguards for losses incurred due to regional instability. Adding to the tension, the Grain Producers Association may escalate protests if their universal compensation demands are not met, indicating potential disruptions to transit. Many young UK residents are being compelled to reject job offers due to high startup costs like clothing and travel. That's according to a new study. The cost of living crisis is bearing down on their career aspirations and mental health, prompting a record low money confidence amongst this demographic. Anxiety about financial security is rampant. More than 50% dread a future where they might never be financially stable, while job-related mental health issues are causing them to miss work or avoid applying for jobs altogether. The number of youngsters now seeking financial advice via TikTok has doubled. The study emphasizes the urgent need for support, noting that pragmatic help with job applications, interview skills, and work experience could be the very lifeline Gen Z requires to navigate these challenges. In Sudan, widespread internet outages have severely impacted citizens, disrupting communication and access to essential online services. The shutdowns, which began on Friday and affected major providers, are reportedly linked to the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. The RSF, which controls a significant portion of the capital and telecom facilities, is demanding the restoration of services in Darfur, a region under the influence where network connectivity issues are also occurring. Civilians are struggling to reach family members, and many rely on now inaccessible digital transactions for necessities like food. Despite the challenging circumstances, telecom companies are engaging with stakeholders to restore services. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation remains dire as medical charities report tragic fatalities among children in the displaced camps of Darfur. In Morocco, significant steps are being taken to address the growing concern of art forgeries. The international demand for Moroccan artwork is on the rise, with substantial increases in its value. This trend is notably strong in Middle Eastern nations such as Qatar and the UAE, making the initiative vital for artists and their collectors. Authorities are considering tougher penalties and more rigorous regulation of auction houses. The goal is to shield collectors from the growing issue of fake art and to ensure the authenticity of the $2.5 million art market. The move reflects a global trend in the crackdown on art crime, with Morocco stepping up efforts akin to those of the FBI's art crime team in the United States. In Buenos Aires, public transportation users face a steep fare hike that took effect on February 6th. The fare hike, which represents more than a 250% increase for buses and nearly 170% for trains, is part of the government's attempt to reduce state subsidies. Starting April 1st, unregistered card users will see even higher minimum fares for buses and trains, missing out on discounts for connecting journeys. To avoid these higher costs and benefits from travel discounts, users are urged to register their cards. Registration can be done through the app or official website by following a few simple steps. Activating this card also allows users to track their travel history and obtain discounts, report extra charges at stores, and recover credit if their card is lost or damaged. These fare increases present a financial strain on daily commuters in Argentina's capital, significantly affecting their travel budgets. In Haiti, the government has taken measures to disarm environmental officers following violent incidents with the police. The move, aimed at enhancing national security, has sparked regional protests demanding the Prime Minister's resignation. This situation comes amidst the government's endeavor to restructure the National Agency for Protected Areas due to alleged dysfunctional operations. Amidst the unrest, the government has restricted environmental agents to their designated regions and prohibited the carrying of firearms in urban areas. These events are causing widespread disruption, with citizens in parts of Haiti showing their dissent by blocking key transport routes, adding to the existing tension and impacting daily life. A relentless storm system, known locally as a Pineapple Express, has been wreaking havoc across California. Residents have been scrambling for materials like potting soil to fortify their homes after sandbags sold out. The anticipated storm has led to school closures and a state of emergency declaration in several counties. More than 847,000 people are facing power outages, and transportation is severely disrupted, including flight delays and cancellations. Evacuation orders are in place for vulnerable areas, with officials urging people near wildfire burn zones to move to safety to avoid mudslides. The severe weather is forecasted to continue, bringing heavy rain and snow and raising concerns for public safety and property. Internet giants Google and Apple are implementing new regulations aimed at altering the way advertisers communicate with consumers via email. These changes come in response to growing consumer frustration with an overwhelming number of daily messages, increasing sophisticated phishing schemes, and a rise in spam emails. Gmail security leaders articulate these shifts as a means to alleviate inbox stress and provide a more predictable experience for users by clarifying email marketing standards. For consumers, the benefits of these changes are twofold: a potential reduction in unwanted emails and enhanced protection from deceptive practices. The new rules are expected to allow users to unsubscribe from emails more efficiently, reducing the likelihood of legitimate company emails being marked as spam. While larger corporations may handle these changes easily, smaller businesses may feel the pressure as email providers tighten spam thresholds, requiring careful email campaign management. The American Bar Association has introduced a new standard as part of its accreditation for law schools. This development addresses concerns on recent events that have stifled free expression on campuses, including legislative efforts and student protests. Law schools must now implement a policy that ensures the law community can debate and express ideas, including contentious ones, without facing disruptions. This standard, the first of its kind, extends the privileges of academic freedom from faculty to include students and staff, significantly impacting the way law schools foster dialogue on pressing legal and socio-political issues. The decision is poised to reshape the landscape of legal education in the United States, promoting a more open environment for legal discourse. Lyft, a prominent player in the ride-sharing market, has announced a new compensation initiative, guaranteeing drivers a minimum of 70% share from their riders' fares. This commitment is in response to an ongoing criticism regarding driver earnings and the gig economy's broader disputes over fair compensation and working conditions. The move by Lyft is designed to address persistent concerns related to earnings, job security, and worker safety. The company disclosed that while the average driver earns 88% of the fare post-expenses, a noticeable fraction, 15% of drivers, earned less than the promised threshold last year. In addition to the pay guarantee, Lyft is rolling out tools for drivers to view detailed payment breakdowns and is offering incentives for scheduled pickups and the use of electric vehicles. In Victoria, Australia, the burden of childcare costs is sharply affecting families, with new data revealing they have the highest median fees in the country at $626 a week for center-based daycare. After subsidies, Victorian parents still face the highest expenses, consuming a significant portion of their disposable income. Childcare has become a major challenge for women returning to work, with the financial burden making it difficult for many families. For some, the cost is unsustainable without working in the sector for a discount on fees. The Victorian government faces criticism for the high cost of education, which serves as a barrier to both childcare services and returning to the workforce. There is a call for the state to address and reduce the financial pressures on parents across all levels of education. In communities across Australia, the rise of short-term rentals such as Airbnb and stays has sparked housing shortages, pushing locals out. As popular tourist destinations attract a large number of visitors, local residents often struggle to keep up with the rapidly growing demand for short-term accommodations. Local governments, in response to the shortage, have begun to implement a mix of regulatory measures to mitigate the impact, such as caps on the number of nights a property may be rented, impending taxes on revenues from these platforms, and registration requirements. Critics argue these current regulation methods, based on seemingly arbitrary thresholds, lack a data-driven foundation. Advocates for regulation stress the importance of protecting long-term housing stocks while maintaining the vitality brought by tourism. In some towns where housing for local workers is scarce, innovative solutions like the Adopt a Worker program have emerged as an attempt to balance community and tourism needs. And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. an update on the current chemtrail status, the Rothschild family, and the secret space program operatives that appear to be still playing the game. What's the real story from behind the scenes with the royal family of the United Kingdom? Who was Princess Diana? And Global Intelligence Agency's Agent M will be joining us with a boots-on-the-ground intelligence update on the war in the Middle East, how the Rothschild family is involved, and who the Middle Eastern royals are. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. Busy morning.
Busy morning, busy day, busy couple of days. There's a lot of things changing, so wanted to talk about a couple things, and then we have a special guest with us today. So, all right. What has transpired since the release of the operatives and the explaining of the different sectors and how everything is playing out right now? The operatives seem to be very focused on the 5 factors and who is best for each one of these factors in every single country. They are definitely discussing a meeting with us, a face-to-face meeting, which I'm looking forward to. And we're all looking forward to moving forward. But now that doesn't mean we still don't have some holdouts.
And when you say who is best, do you mean they're trying to determine if you are best or hanging on with the Rothschilds, or what are they trying to determine who is best?
For 99% of them worldwide, they are looking at, for example, we talked about what an asset is and what an operative is, and we talked about the fact that pretty much all operatives are the ones that run politics.
Right.
Or have been the go-between, I guess you would say, between the politicians and themselves and what we see on the TV and how the actors all play out and what actually is being ordered by the global deep state. So by global deep state, we're not talking about the World Economic Forum. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people that order those operatives to then direct your Klaus Schwabs and your, all the things that we deem as evil in the public eye, because those are the only things we see. So we know people like the Clinton family is bad, but they, again, are just actors and not the actual order givers. So what we're seeing is now these groups, the media group, the financial operative groups, the political operative groups, and military and intelligence operative groups, we're seeing those people come together, figuring out they're not getting any orders anymore, and they're definitely not getting any pay the way that they used to. So they're trying to figure out plans of what will work for the best interest of the people. They're trying to figure out how this works in a new way, in an asset-based system where you as a person and a human are not an asset. They are just going through numbers, logistics, and when I say that they're trying to figure out who is best to go where, this is in each country in the world, because there's a lot of them in every single country, and they're discussing amongst themselves, like, who has been in the media sector behind the scenes this whole time, who would be best to make this transition, that type of thing. So they're looking to establish a new framework with which to work within and then possibly work with us. So they don't want to come and sit down empty-handed. They want to come, with a plan. How are we going to do this? And from what I'm hearing, it seems to be pretty well underway. They understand that there could possibly be a time constraint involved. And without their help, they know that there won't be a market crash. As you can see, things seem to have stabilized worldwide all of a sudden once they figured out what they were doing behind their backs. So we'll see what happens in the next few days financially, but it doesn't look right now like we're headed in the same direction as we were 48 hours ago, meaning stocks have stabilized, most markets have stabilized, even the China market's starting to pull up a little bit. There have been some talks with the operative groups of China recently, last night, as a matter of fact, and it appears that they are looking to see how they can best work together with the repository, so meaning ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a little bit of discussion about that, in a way forward, and we'll talk about that too here in just a minute. So that on that front is where that is going. Now, on an update on the chemtrail front, we had clear skies for a few days, and the current chemtrail fiasco that we're seeing all around, not only the U.S., but all around the world, is not the same quality that they were spraying on us a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't mean it's not bad, but people aren't, you might not feel well, that kind of thing, but it's not to the degree of where everybody was getting sick before. Right. Most recent stashes we found were in Vietnam, some by the Kazakhstan border in Russia. Niagara Falls was yesterday, I believe that was yesterday, and this morning it was under Yale University. I know. Surprise, surprise, what they manufacture. And so we're still looking to see if there's more. These are more of I would call it a nanotech. It needs a system to connect to activate. So although it's heavy metals, those can be removed from the body by diet and a few plants. We've been discussing those on Telegram, and I can put those thoughts in the community as well for that. But so that's what you've been seeing. And they look a little different. They look a little weaker. They don't look quite the same as the really harsh ones we had of a week or two ago. So hopefully we have gotten those stashes, but those are being ordered by the remaining, I'd say 15 now to 20 SSP Monarch military operatives that have not yet been released. Most of what we're seeing around the world is being run by these guys. Now, an interesting development that happened literally right before the news and is still happening at this moment in time is that there is a call that was supposed to take place at noon Eastern Standard Time today between these operatives and the Order of the Dragon, who they're still reporting to. Now, the Order of the Dragon, as of an hour and a half later, have not yet come to the phone and not yet given them instructions. Yesterday in the evening, or last night, there was a call that was placed between these operatives and the locals here in Durango, and this was about them arranging to come here. They were given strict parameters. If they were going to come, you must do X, Y, and Z, and do not fall outside those lines because they consider them also enemies of them at this point. They're still going along with the old program. They're not happy about it. They're not friends. I wouldn't say they're, I would say their enemies is harsh, but I'm going to say their old comrades are not on the program that everybody else is on right now. So they're watching them very closely. They are in the area. I do know that these guys are in Colorado Springs and in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so they're not that far away. And they are awaiting orders. We're sitting on this call, getting angrier and angrier and angrier, waiting for their beloved Order of the Dragon people to come to the phone. Is this going to work out? Are we going to have the meeting proposed was at 5 p.m. today, my time, locally. So is this meeting going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Are they going to come anyway? Are they not going to come? Are they going to sit on this phone for the next 4 hours to see if anybody does come? I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question. But meanwhile, the orders that they've been given and a promised pay date by Saturday is what they've been told from the Order of the Dragon as to when they would be getting paid. They also have other promises that they've been promised in addition to the pay. They also are another group that has been promised that they will be in charge of all media, all militaries worldwide, I know, and all intelligence agencies worldwide. So this is now the third group that they have promised this to. And when I say that every sector of the deep state has its own little way of operating, this is not a surprise. Back in about 2014, I was having a lot of conversations at the time with heads of state in the Dominican Republic, heads of state in Brazil, heads of state on the African continent, and during this time, I had talked to both current heads of state and then past heads of state. And through the course of about 3 to 6 months, I think it was about 2014, it might have been even earlier, because it was at the time when we were transitioning from one Secretary General of the United Nations to another. Mm-hmm. So it could have been a year or so before that. And about 18 different people told me they were promised, and don't say anything, but I'm going to be the next Secretary General of the United Nations. I was like, oh, and I didn't say anything to these people at the time, but it was about, by the time I hit the 18th call, I'm like, oh, this is another way that the Order of the Dragon does things. They promise everybody the same position. They bet on all 8 horses, which was a saying of Marduk's as well. And they see which one is going to win, because either way, he wins.
Yeah.
So this is kind of that same game. It's not a surprise to me. I know it's a surprise to Langley 5, and it was a surprise to the Black nobility or the anti-silent circle. And the anti-silent circle was kind of shocked about what I said on Wednesday. They called the silent circle and they said, hey, is this true? And they said nothing but, because this is how they are, she speaks truth.
That's how they talk.
Yeah, they're very limited in when they talk. They're very,
really,
yeah, very. I'm not going to say it's philosophical. They're just very straight and to the point. You ask me a question, I will answer this question only. We're not going to chat about how the family's doing. We're not going to have coffee. We're not friends in any way. They just basically picked up the phone, took their call, and gave them the answer, and that was the end of that. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that all 3 parties have not been participating in what you've been seeing out there in the world today, and who they're driving and on behalf of whom. So I am seeing a little bit of activity from the anti-silent circle, or what you would call the Black nobility families, the Orsinis, Pallavicinis, and I'm seeing that throughout the Middle East and in I would say in Russia. I've seen it a little bit, in some of the Eastern European countries recently, and some of the things that we've been seeing moving around, a lot of artillery moving around. I'd say I definitely see it coming from the American side and their attempt to drive the militaries mainly off a cliff. And there's quite a bit going on in Israel right now, and in a few other areas of the world. We're seeing some stuff in South Africa, little bits and pieces here and there. There's a lot of chatter going on about what they're attempting to do. And the 20 holdouts from the SSP are now your new chemtrail kings. Like I said, one goes down and another one comes right up, is promised the moon, stars, and the sun, and their ego will not permit them to not believe that it's true. They must believe it's true. All you have to do is call these people or talk to these people in a meeting, and there you have it. Oh, you guys are the best in the world. These other guys, just let them go. You know, they're just dead weight hanging on you. You should be the ones to run this stuff. You know, forget about whoever their competition is, you know, insert names here. Don't worry about those people, because you are the descendants of the bloodline of Genghis Khan and whatever you are, you know, everybody's a special person.
And you said there's only like 15 to 20 of them?
Yeah, but each one of them has a downline.
Oh.
So, you know, they've been handling, then there's handlers that handle the handlers that handle the handlers.
Okay.
And that's why we're seeing kind of it's one group right now that's planning for the future. It's this group that's planning to try to maintain and hang on to the past. So that's kind of what we're seeing in that arena. We're also seeing a lot, and I mean a lot, of anger, upheaval, anxiousness, a lot of energetic changes going on as we remove the remnants of the old Lion's Gate and the old gatekeeper. And when I say gatekeeper, I'm not necessarily talking about computers and what was underneath the city of Tel Aviv in the past. I'm talking about the let's just say during different ages, there are the realms, as we've talked about, and you also have the gatekeepers of those realms, which is where you hear the internet terms like the Black Knight satellite system. Oh, yeah. It's not just a satellite system. You've probably seen that on the internet. Mm-hmm. There's also a blue and a purple and a gray and a white and and the other colors. And it's not like there's these satellites in the sky we need to all be afraid of. It's not your atypical satellite. These things exist in the overworld and in the underworld, or existed there. And it was to maintain the balance between the universes, so to speak. No one in, no one out. And the remnants of that are being cleared. So we are seeing some energetic changes, some disturbances, some influences that have not made it through the causal plane at this moment in time. Those influences are still lingering, though, were, hopefully. We got the remnants of it this morning. They're still lingering, I would say, in like the etherical fields and the emotional plane and the mental plane. And that's why you're probably seeing people a little bit more on edge than they normally are, maybe some road rage, some, people in your peripheral spinning out of control, that kind of stuff. So, and we're seeing it, we're seeing it kind of everywhere. It should be dissipating throughout the day today. I hope we don't see much more of that. We are within 3 days of a new moon, so no surprise to me that they're saying payday is on the new moon on Saturday. For their SSP friends, and it's same thing, different day on their end of it. On our end of it, we absolutely have to move forward. Now that being said, I'd like to bring in our special guest, Agent M. Many of you have heard him before. He is our Global Intelligence Agency representative, Deputy Director of the Middle East. And he is here with us to talk about the happenings in the Middle East, current happenings over the last couple of weeks since we've spoken. So welcome, Agent M.
Hello, ladies and gents. Nice to be back.
Good to see you again, too. So tell us, from a boots on the ground standpoint, what have you been seeing with the real story with what's going on with Israel, the Gaza Strip? I know there's been a lot of activity. There we go. There's that word, Kim. A lot of activity also in Syria recently. There's been some talk about Saudi Arabia promising a bunch of money to Jordan, Jordan's involvement. So why don't you take it from the top?
Yeah, well, I guess we can talk about it from the day the Black Sun released their assets, because that's, you can say, was the critical point or the crossroad. So right when that happened, I would say within 24 to 48 hours, suddenly, Hezbollah of Iraq, which is another group, not really related to the Hezbollah of Lebanon, but are, governed by the same people, and other groups in the PMF that have, bombed American bases in the area, Iraq and Syria. They suddenly decided and announced they will no longer aid Hamas or Gaza by, bombing these bases. So they basically, I guess, stopped their operations. Now, most of those Black Sun groups did the same. And then some of those were still, doing their thing. In fact, publicly, they announced they will continue. And so by that time, I knew exactly which ones are, being run by the other group, the Rothschild or the 20 operatives, SSB operatives. So one of those groups is a group called Al-Nujaba, which is also somebody, it's managed by a guy with the name of Akram Al-Kabi. And this guy was promised back in July by the Rothschilds that he's going to be, in Sistani's place. And so, for the new followers, we already spoke about Sistani. He is the Pope figure for the Shia Muslims. So you got all these religious slash militias, 2, 3, 4 of them, all been promised, just like Kim said about the UN general thing. They were all promised the same position. Now, they were, last time I think we spoke, they were planning on making a fake assassination of Sistani, and then blame it on one of those, and then have them kill each other. That was the plan, right? We have Muqtada al-Sadr, who is also famous and well-known, you can call him scholar, but he's not really. He's a politician. He has a wide base of people following him. They promised him he could be, what was it? The Mahdi, right? Was it? It's like the savior for in Islam. It's like the second return of Christ. So, and these people buy it, So that's on one side. On the other side, you see, like in places like Israel is really struggling. They need to keep the narrative. They need to keep the war. Okay, they destroyed everything in Gaza. There's nothing else to destroy. So now they're like rigging the rubbles of the destroyed houses again and blowing it up again because they needed to do something new, right? And
I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, what a waste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hezbollah in Lebanon, they're like, nope, we're not participating. We're not going to do. I mean, they're doing skirmishes to save face, because remember, all these people in the Middle East, especially these militias that have a religious, kind of overlay, they are the resistance. They are the ones who want to free Palestine from the Israelis, right? Now, when half of Palestine is being slaughtered and they're not doing anything, then they lose face. They lose their base, right? So they have to do skirmishes here and there. And it's funny because in the public eye here, we call it the war in Lebanon, between Lebanon and Israel, the war of the cameras. It's like Israel puts a camera on the border, then Hezbollah shoots it with a sniper or with a rocket, and then the Hezbollah puts another camera on the other side, and then Israel bombs that camera. So it's like, it's very funny, right?
So you think we should? I was just going to say, so do you think that we should start a Save the Camera Foundation?
Yes, we should. GoFundMe, Save the Camera Foundation.
GoFundMe, Save the Cameras.
All cameras created equal. All
yep,
cameras.
All cameras
matter.
Created equal.
Yeah, all cameras matter. Yeah, so.
All cameras matter.
Yeah. So yeah, that's because when you don't have money to actually do any war, all you can do is basically talk BS on TV and hype it up, and then shoot a camera every day here and there. So
I'm hearing the same thing about Russia, Ukraine as well.
Yeah,
it's also of course, shoot the camera there too.
Of course, in Syria, it's a different thing because they can't do the same thing in Syria. They can't be shooting cameras. So what they do, they have 2 airports. They keep bombing the same. They're just bombing the airfield. It's it's basically a runway, and that's it. 2 days later, anyone can fix it. Really, it's fixable, and then they bomb it again, right? So I think it was in the past couple of days they bombed. The city of Homs, right? Now, here's something else that's happening. So people are catching on. I'm talking about the locals in the Middle East that, hey, they're playing us. This is not a real war. So now both sides are starting to put sacrificial lambs, like they put, a small leader here, so to make it real, because, when you're doing, just like in Yemen, when you're doing 73 airstrikes here, 14 airstrikes there, and there's nobody dead, so you're bombing basically empty parking lots, right? So now they're like, no, we have to make it more real. So they will, give orders to someone very low rank to stay and guard the place, and eventually, and unfortunately, these people die. So that's what been happening to make it real. Other than that, I could tell that it's like the pro-Iranians, everybody on the Black Sun side, it's mostly like a kid, like a chicken with their head cut off. That's how it feels. It's like they don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they should do anything or not do anything. So that's all. I mean,
it seems like what we're seeing a lot of is one person will call them and tell them to do this. Then another person calls them and tells them to do that. And then another person calls them and says, well, you could do a little bit of this and that. And then they don't know what to do or where they're going. There's no clear leadership right now as to what we call assets. And by assets in the Middle East, we would be referring to the birth of the Hezbollah and all its offshoots, the Hamas and all its offshoots, and the Revolutionary Guard in Iran and all its offshoots. The call that I'm listening to with the Order of the Dragon also includes a person from Turkey and a person from Iran as well. They are definitely trying to figure out what to do while leaving their SSP operatives, Monarch military predominantly, kind of sitting there waiting on the phone. But these are the guys that are also calling into the Middle East to all of the assets and saying, well, now it's time to announce this. Sistani, the original one, and his son now that's playing his role in the movie, he also is definitely 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt connected to a group of, I use this term loosely because it's not entirely true. They appear to be an Islamic sect that moved to London and are, let's just say they are now and have been for a while a part of the Rothschild family. They are interbreed. Say again?
Yeah, I agree. Continue, please.
Yeah. And this sect has been operating for a while. Trying to remember the name of the movie that actually featured them. It was the one, London Down, it's called. It's a movie from about 10 years, it's been a few years anyway. But the name of the movie is London Down, and it's got Gerard Butler in it, and it's about when the bridge goes down in London, and it talks about an Islamic group that's kind of an underground group in London. That's the group that they're portraying.
London Has Fallen. That's the name of the
London
movie.
Has Fallen. Thank you. I knew it was down, fallen. It went away. London Has Fallen. Thank you so much, H&M. So they portray this group in this movie. Anyway, you could say I would say they are working with Mayor Rothschild for sure. The gentleman that tried to recruit H&M here. And I can say that they are pretty much the ones that orchestrate a lot of what's happening, at least politically and financially, throughout the Middle East. I can tell you that they are no more Islamic and religious than the Rothschilds are Jewish. So you could call both groups Luciferian groups for sure. They definitely both participate in those special ceremonies when they turn 40. They are in and all in on the opposite side of what all of the Shia and Sunnis believe. I mean, they are definitely not waiting for the Mahdi. They're not waiting for any of those things. They are definitely trying to bring the reign of hell on all the people in the Middle East. And, you know, all religions aside, it doesn't matter to them. They have signed up for this program. I think the negotiation between these two groups happened probably about 15 years ago. And they are also participating in this call. So far at this moment, no one has given the SSP operatives any kind of direction. I think they postponed the call until I think 2 or 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time today before they'll make a decision, figuring it's a 2-hour helicopter flight from either location, I'm guessing, an hour or so and some change. And, you know, poor H&M here is sitting over there going, well, let's see what they decide, because then that's going to determine what's going to be flying over his head in the next few minutes. So as of right now, the good news is that it doesn't look like anything. How have things been today? Has it been kind of quiet?
Well, I mean, the last time I was on this call with you guys, you know, I was hit with 13 ballistic missiles, a dozen drones, and you know, a military vehicle was on the way to come pick me up. I can't wait to see what happens after this call.
I know.
But, I mean, you can see, you know, over my head, they're buzzing. You know, it's always. I mean, yeah, there are like the C-17s, you know, the C-130s, you know, moving arms, but those usually go like in linear direction, you know, going from, you know, Erbil to Baghdad to the Gulf or any of the other bases in the region, American bases or wherever they go. Mm-hmm. But there are always those, and those are the ones I hate. The Italian Air Force planes, because it's a big, gigantic plane. You can hear it roaring, and it keeps circling over my head. And I'm talking hours every day. Maybe, I don't know, 12 at least, 12 hours a day, you know, give or take. Sometimes they take breaks, I don't know, for refueling or maybe snacks. I don't know. But,
I think they're interested to see if you have shawarma or something else for, Yeah,
they're probably envious of my cat. You know.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, I feed it well. So I don't know. It's been quiet. I mean, honestly, in terms of, you know, I mean, the other day, I mean, in the past few days as well, you know, supposedly, okay, so this is what happened. Now, the PMF basically, or the militias that were, hey, resistance, let's bomb the Americans. So, in solidarity with Gaza kind of crap. So they missed their targets. They usually, send a suicide drone, hits an empty place near a base, American base, and call it a day. Now, they did that in Jordan, and they missed, and they killed 3 Americans and wounded about 40 others, right? 3 American soldiers and wounded 40 others. Now, what happened is now America has to respond. And this means more money, more fuel, more bombs, right? And not only they have to respond, they have to do, to be swift about it, and, at least take, heads must roll, at least in the public eye as well. Because Americans themselves are like, people are killing our own soldiers and we're not even retaliating. So now they're like, oh, what are we going to do? So, yeah, it ended up as well, they were given a heads up. Everyone in the PMF moved their entire arsenal. All their bases were emptied. Nobody was there entirely. And they sent, basically, they put up like new recruits. There were new people that were recruited there, as basically human shields / sacrifices that unfortunately died, so that America can say, we retaliated, or whatever that's in Biden's mask wearing, could say that we achieved it. So see, everything is for the people, in the people's eyes. I'm talking about average person. It looks like a game, and they know, but just they don't know why. I know why, but I tell them now I'm crazy, right? So I usually don't. There are some people that I explain things to in details because, they could be beneficial, because sometimes, you compare notes and you get additional information. So, for example, I knew that the Rothschild side was doing something because someone in Iraq was delivering, or promised at least to deliver missiles and drones to a group in Lebanon that is called the Amal movement. And Amal movement is basically the previous version of Hezbollah. It's just a different group, right? But this one had a lot more in common with Israelis, because both of them committed, ethnic cleansings against the Palestinians in Lebanon and elsewhere. So I could tell that, because Hezbollah didn't want to play, really. I mean, they were like, we'll do the camera things, but no more, right?
And I just wanted to, the Saudi Arabian royal family, we know is a Rothschild family. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the main princes, and I'm trying to remember which one, you might remember the name. He's also one of the shareholders of Citibank, main shareholders of Citibank.
Are you talking about the one that likes bestiality in little kids?
That doesn't narrow it down much for us.
It doesn't, yeah.
No.
Al-Walid bin Talal.
Yeah, Walid. Yes.
Okay.
Al-Walid. And he is actually Lebanese, isn't he, in part?
He is half Lebanese, yes. His mother used to be the daughter of the ex-prime minister of Lebanon. I mean, from the 60s or 50s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's half Lebanese.
Yeah, he is. And he's also, obviously, both sides are Rothschild arms or legs. I mean, their last names. Everybody thinks when you say the Rothschild family that we're talking about the white British, but that is not true. This extends, names, last names don't mean much in the grand scheme of families. There are probably 1,500, if not 2,000 family names of Rothschild. It's not just the ones you see on the internet. And there are a lot of Middle Eastern families as well, a lot of German families that are also Rothschilds, actually one of the first families that Rothschild, the original Red Shield people, ever married into was the Habsburg family in Germany. So about 500 some odd years ago is when that started. And then they figured, well, we can just start marrying into all the royal families of the world, and then we will take all of them over. It's a way to conquer the world theory, and it's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And this is why you saw a lot of prearranged marriages throughout the ages. And it's because it's a marrying, even in American royalty, quote unquote, I call it American royalty, like the Kennedy family, their black son, you'll see their wives or husbands, vice versa, are usually from the Order of the Dragon. Hillary is Order of the Dragon. Bill is Order of the Black Sun. Barbara Bush, member of the Rothschild family. Bush Sr., that's a given, Order of the Black Sun. So this is a very common thing that happens amongst these groups. Now, the ones that really get the gold star from the family groups is if they can manage to marry a Melchizedek, as in the case of King Chucky, King Charles, and Diana.
Now that's making all kinds of sense to me now, because I often wondered why did that happen? Interesting.
And then did you ever wonder why, after the divorce and all that was final, she had found a Middle Eastern partner?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dodi.
Dodi Pai.
One. Tell me what you think of him, H&M.
Well, I don't know him personally and not much about him, but I did know that they had a lot of in common, and they were planning a lot of things, a lot of good things to, so I'm assuming that they were both taken out for that reason.
And the fact that they were both Melchizedeks too.
Yeah.
They were both Melchizedeks. Wow.
And she was allegedly pregnant at the time.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing they could not have.
Yeah.
What would that have done, Kim? A child?
Well, think about it. Her family was one of the way back in the day before the Rothschilds in Etal took over the United Kingdom in England. I should say this is even back in the days of England and Scotland, and there wasn't a Commonwealth, but that is where her family stems from. The original root race of the entire European and UK region, all the way down to Turkey. So she was part of that family, and that's why they are so there's talk in the media right now about King Charles and how he's not well, and the next one in the line of succession is William, because William is both of the dark and of the light, and they think that by transitioning him into a royal role, that either way, it doesn't matter if the dark wins or the light side wins, that this person, that William, will still be recognized by both sides. You see, it's a game that they're playing. And there's a lot of talk on the internet about him being born on the summer solstice on purpose, and how that was all manipulated. But they, just like anyone that happens to hit their radar from the other side, they, definitely go through a system of torture. I know H&M here has. There's been a lot that has happened in our lives. But, it's okay. We don't consider videos on the internet torture. In his world, I know you spent a few years of daily torture.
I spent a year in an underground military base in Syria, where I was systematically tortured for at least 12 hours a day.
Yeah, and there was a lot of burns. And matter of fact, he sent me pictures back in the day from when he was in the hospital and was having his face reconstructed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I was basically standing and sitting and sleeping and walking in 1 foot tile for a year, naked and in complete darkness.
Yep. So, yeah.
It wasn't fun then, but believe me, it's like that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because then, I mean, I told Kim once, I think privately, I spoke with her. I said, this could be, looked at both ways. It's unfortunate, it's bad, but it could be also really good at the same time. Because, I believe God put me there for a reason. I mean, yes, it was horrific, but it was so I can discover my inner strength. I did not know I could last a day. I mean, when I knew where I was, I gave myself 3 days in the beginning. 3 days. I said, if I can go out quick in 3 days, I'm a lucky one. Then but I eventually, you know what? They tried to break you. This is what happened 3 months in. Everybody, even every single torturer, every single officer that interrogated me, everyone, I gained their respect. They couldn't break me. And one of them, I remember, he was telling me, usually, I don't see their faces. I don't know. I lived in darkness, so I can't see anything. One of them showed me his face and told me, I'll do everything I can to get you out because you deserve to live. We need men like you.
Wow.
So, yeah, we have been, and everywhere persecuted, I guess, but it's part of the job. That's why we're here. It's part of the training.
Well, and once you've been through a situation like that, or I've met someone, let's just say someone whom was always referred to as the doctor. He was very high up in a group called the Jades. The Jades are a well-known assassination group. You sometimes hear them called the Greens. I know that there are some people in the alt media, and I'll leave it at that, that refer to not the green dragons, but they call them the Greens, the red and the greens, with no name. That's these folks. And they called him the doctor because he was very proficient in the art of torture. And we've had a conversation about it. Unfortunately, he was more interested in trying to get me to marry him than he was at the time, than he was interested in doing anything else to make me marry him. You don't want that, to be married to someone that's gone through that, I guess. And but he told me a lot about the different methods that they use, and every group is different in the world. They don't all use the same methodologies. I've heard about bamboo slowly but surely under the fingernails and all kinds of different stuff. So what H&M says doesn't surprise me on what they do to us. What happened to Diana doesn't surprise me based on what they do to us. But I would say to you, the rumors that people have out there about this person coming back or that person coming back or these people are still alive, that kind of thing. It's interesting that oftentimes those rumors come from the Order of the Black Sun or the Order of the Dragon, and they're often revered for it. If you notice, when they marry a Melchizedek, the other side, it's like they become the king of all kings of the world, and they want everyone in the public to think the same thing. In their world, that's like, you won the gold star of the day. You are now, a gold star winner of the order because you've gotten the prize. you manage to breed with one of the other side. But it's just caused a lot of people a lot of pain, a lot of like Agent M said. He said that they intended to do some really good things together for the people of the Middle East. Her using her credibility as a royal family member against the royal family there, and that would have been a big win. We wouldn't be seeing the things we're seeing now there if that had actually happened. If you don't know, I also know another gentleman that knew Diana as well personally. Since this is all coming up in the news, I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. And he used to work throughout the African continent in some of the Commonwealth countries on behalf of her foundation that she formed after they were divorced. And they would pull out, for example, landmines and cluster bombs and those types of things out of the ground on behalf of the local people, not only in the Mozambique area, but also in some other areas of Southern Africa. And this person personally knew. We also had a discussion at my kitchen table in the place where I currently am. And he sat there and he told me, he goes, I know she died 6 months ago. And this was over a year ago, and he was talking about the Queen. So there's a lot that happens in this world to destroy anyone who tries to do good things. And it's okay, like Agent M said, once you've gone through that, there's not a whole lot they're going to do to you that's going to even make you blink your eye, or and it's laughable. It is laughable. It is laughable to me when, after I don't know how many poisonings, after putting a bag on my head and dragging me to God knows where, China, to meet the Black Dragon at the time, and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, you put a video out, like,
I know.
You know what I'm trying to say? It's just a joke. It is all a sad person's joke. That's all it really is. And for us, it's like, okay, we're looking for, now I'm going to possibly have this meeting this afternoon. If it comes, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I don't care. I don't really have any need to have a discussion with those people in any way. But, fine. I'm here to listen. If they, want to continue pitching something on behalf of a dying breed of Merovingians, okay, I'll listen. It doesn't mean I'm going to do anything, but, I'll bring my own water to the table. I've learned that lesson a long time ago. Make sure I know where I'm sitting and, and all that kind of stuff. It's like a big rotation to make sure you don't fall into the same trap that you fell into before. But no problem. We'll see. So at the end of the day, do you see any resolution to what's happening there, Agent M?
I mean, my opinion is not really maybe that popular. My personal opinion is we should get rid of all of them, all the way to every single person, government, because even the smallest, let's call it him or her, public servant in the smallest non-even lethal or military or agency position is corrupt, is not working for the people. So I don't think any of those people should be in power any later than the end of this year. I truly believe none of them is repairable as well, just like their masters. It's almost like a virus. Once you get infected, really, it's like a zombie virus or like a vampire virus. So yeah, I don't see. I mean, they can run around with their heads cut off all they want. Really, there's nothing, that they can actually do to cause mass harm. I mean, I believe their only card that is left is playing on fake religious figures such as fake Sistani or anyone else, and try to get the people rallied up maybe for like a civil war, like a Sunni Shia thing or whatever, so that people will stop looking at Israel. Israel now wants an end to the war or another smokes and mirror, So let's say something else happens in Iraq, right? Now everything in the media is now focused on Iraq, and then nobody's talking about Israel and what's happening in Gaza. The same thing like when COVID happened, right? COVID, masks, wash your hands, do this, do that, take the jab, right? And then suddenly the Ukraine war happened, and then it cured COVID miraculously, right? So that's what they're looking for to do, because from what I understand, the people in Israel themselves are tired, right? Israel's military isn't designed for long-term battle, okay? Because just so you know, Israel does not really have a military. They have a small, compact, let's call them special forces, and a small, compact armored division that is capable and are skilled. The rest are just people that they draft that are usually 10, 15 years out of service when needed. So now they rallied up all these hundreds of thousands of people from all over the globe, right, and brought them to Israel because, they have to save the nation and call for duty, right? But now they want out and they can't. So they're trying to do something else. They're trying to get, Hezbollah to do something, get the PMF to do something, cause something. So just in the past day or 2 days, parades started to happen in Baghdad, where, people are pushed. It's almost like, it's like a big mob, and they would parade in areas that are, majority Sunni, and they would chant, things that would be offensive, right? And they're trying to do, another civil war, because they managed to pull this off in 2007, and the person who was in charge of that was a gentleman by the name General Soleimani. He was the head of the Iranian Guards at that time. He was tasked to do this. He blew up 2 shrines, and these shrines are basically 2 of the grandsons of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And even though he claims, and his people and everybody else claims, that they are, the protectors of the Prophet's line and teachings, they blew it up themselves to cause a civil war, right? Now, back then, they managed to pull it off. Now, people are more aware. They understand that they can't do it. So the only threat I see is Sistani's people, they make somehow the position vacant, and then they get the people, all of the Shia militias to fight over that position. That's how I see it.
And there was back chatter, what was it, about a week or 2 ago, of them faking the assassination the last time that they thought that they were going to win the game and fund the thing and ring the bell and all the other stuff. See, what people don't understand sometimes is that just because, we talk about things on this level, we're talking about, there's another day ending in Y, there's another payday going to happen. But that then facilitates operatives on down the line, one after the other, until you get to the son of Sistani, who's playing the role of Sistani right now, to where they were going to fake an assassination of a person that would be like the Catholic Pope to the Catholic population. And obviously it would be blamed on someone or another. We never quite determined or maybe they never knew yet who they were going to blame it on. I mean, at the time, it probably would have been the Israelis or somebody or other. And then, before you know it, an entire country erupts into a civil war and, thousands of people die. And it's all because way up the food chain, there was a payment that came out. So I know people are frustrated, and I know people are angry, and I know people want to see money into a system, and I know, and I understand people are hurting, and it hurts me that they are hurting as well. But I also see the lack of death, sometimes with what could have been if Zelensky and the KGB mob over there actually got more money, more funding. How many more Ukrainians would have died? Yes, at the time there was an investment made by the oligarchs, and which are the ex-KGB, and a decision was made to fund what was happening over there. Most of the stuff that they were talking about that came from the Americans was funds that they had seized of other, let's just say, KGB, which it wasn't actually seized, it was donated to the war. And then it made a circle around through Congress, all waving Ukrainian flags during the State of the Union address a couple years ago, and then back to the Ukraine, and then back to their private pockets of Congress. Do you know how much a Congress member gets paid for waving a Ukrainian flag on the side? It's a lot of money to wave that. That's exhausting to wave it for all those minutes on public television. They need some disability pay or something, for having arm soreness or something. But the world does not work like everybody thinks it does, unfortunately. And it's the same cycle over and over again. It's the same operation. You could actually write a handbook, H&M. I'm sure I could as well. Like, exactly who is behind the entire string of what you're seeing before it even gets started, based on which section of the handbook the exact same operation comes out of. Because they didn't create those operations at the highest level on this planet. Those were created by someone else. The only thing they have is a record of it. The same thing goes for the Lion's Gate. The same thing goes for new moons, full moons, alignments with Uranus, or anything else. It is somebody else's handbook they're playing on. And they don't understand the mechanism behind it. Same thing that you see going on in the Middle East right now. Like H&M said, people are running around like crazy people. They don't know which way to go. Are we supposed to be bombing the Americans or not? I don't get it. And then everybody sits and waits on a phone call for an hour and a half or 2 hours until the almighty, elite group that they think is the Illuminati gets on the phone. And while you're waiting for that, you have them making the SSP operatives, Monarch Military, wait, and then Monarch Military is making the Iranians wait, or the Israelis wait, or whomever, the Hezbollah or Hamas or whoever, Taliban or whoever they're calling their asset these days, they're making them all wait. And where are they going? Now, payments due on Saturday. Is it a surprise that these people want to come here and start negotiations on a Wednesday evening? No, it doesn't surprise me. I am not paying your bills. Bottom line, not happening. And the fact that you can't even run an operation, if I was Dr. Evil and I wanted that, well, look at the mess that they're making. And this is from on the ground in the Middle East right now. Play by play. So no. Why would I hire you? It's like hiring somebody to mow your lawn when they run over your dog, and then having them come back. If you can't, Anyway, that's kind of the state of affairs here on the World Situation Report. H&M, you have anything to say? Anything else to say before we go for the day?
Yeah, well, I have a story I want to share. So, when I got involved, personally, and then, in October of 2019, with the situation in the area, in my country and in the area. That's when I got, the first things of the protests happening and all of that, and the people started dying, and I started to move and act. I said all these things in the past situation report. So I found out that's prior to me regrouping for the second time with Mayor Rothschild, the real plan. That's why I was able to do the things I was, so, and it came by accident. So, I wanted kind of protection for the people that are working with me. So I decided, I'll use like some sort of non-governmental entity. UN would be ideal because the struggle was with the pro-Iranians, and they're predominantly Black Sun. So I contacted some people in the UN, and I asked, can you at least hire one or two, for protection purposes only. And they said, no, we ran out of the budget for 2019 for Iraq. I said, fine, okay, what about if we wait until the beginning of the year 2020? Can you do it? I said, no, we already spent 2020 budget for Iraq as well. And I said, on what? And here's the shock. So apparently in 2019, the UN purchased 8 million tents. Each one can house 4 people, plus millions of body bags.
Oh my gosh.
Now, when I confronted Mayor Rothschild with this, he was like, how did you find that out? That was that was confirmation enough. I was like, what are you trying to do? And he said, well, people die in wars and, this and that. And he confessed to me that he already had field hospitals set up in Kuwait so that they would kidnap people from Iraq during the civil war that they were planning to do and harvest their organs to monetize the war. Monetize and fund the war. So I want people to understand that for the past, 5 years now, that was the plan. It could have been many, many years before that. And for actions of people like me and Kim, we were able to prevent that from happening. Do you understand that hundreds of thousands of people would have been killed and their organs harvested? And that's how sick these people are. So, yeah.
Not to mention the other rituals.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing when you look at World War II. You know how much money they made from pharmaceutical companies and all of that, from all of the torture and the medical experiments they did on those people.
Oh yeah.
That's how they fund war. They don't spend their own money on anything.
Yeah.
They are what we call OPM people, other people's money. They find a commodity, that they can get from the war. They sell that commodity, and then that pays for the war and then of course the political change that is their ultimate desired outcome. If you really start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, some of the movies that they put out there, there's a movie out from a few years ago called 13 Hours where the Navy SEALs are not picked up. What happened to that ambassador? What was he negotiating? What did he know? There's Clinton, I know for sure, Hillary Clinton did not send help.
Mm-hmm.
Did not. Until they got wind that something happened to the ambassador. So they were just going to leave all those people there to die. There's a lot of truth out there in the real history of war. And one day, we'll start telling a lot more of the stories. But for now, I think that's enough for a world situation report for the day. But just to give you an idea, I know people think that it's like a toaster. They wish the world was like a toaster. and you put the bread in, and then within 5 minutes or less it pops up and it's perfect and it's the way you want it and it's warm, and all is right with the world now that you've got your toast to go with your coffee in the morning. But unfortunately, ending a war is not the same. It's not a toaster. Yes, you can, even things over the last, I would say 30 days, if not longer, in the Middle East have ebbed and flowed. All of a sudden, there'll be days when I will say, well, this is the day that Rothschild said that they were going to back off, or this is the day that the Black Sun agents were released, or this was the day that the Rothschild released their agents, and it's crickets out there until they decide to regroup with a few people and they're downline, and then there we go. Everything's, there's drone strikes and missile strikes, and ballistic missiles are moving all over the place, and from Iran, and we know that. We've watched that happen. So I can't stress to you enough. I understand you're impatient. I understand this is not humane, and I understand what you're saying. But when you take out a group of, let's just say, we managed to get it down to the child that was just born yesterday in all 1,700 Rothschild families by this name or that name. Let's just say we managed to do that. That doesn't mean the SSP that works for them isn't going to think that they're now in charge because their boss is gone. And then it goes on and on and on and on and on. And you, unfortunately, to do things in the right way under natural law, you have to give that next group a chance. You have to see if they are going to do the same thing now that their ex-handlers and superiors are gone. Are you going to do the same thing? Well, okay, here you go. Everybody now to the left, and then we move on to the next layer and the next layer. Unfortunately, it can't happen any faster. I wish we could change things overnight. Agent M, I wish you could just go in there, guns a-blazing, waving your flag that you're showing everybody right now, and just tell them, look, it's over.
Yeah, believe me, I want it Jordan Shield.
I know.
But we have to wait.
I know. Okay, that's all I have for today's situation report. Any questions, Miss Sunny?
No. But thank you, Agent M, for joining us today. It's always good to have you on the news.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with friends and family. And that's also where you'll find our UNN meme of the day, which we think is a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all of our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the face of news together. And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so we can help you share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.